Hey folks, and welcome to the Michael Rollins Show. And first off, my sincerest apologies. I have been really sick. Not like the flu sick, which I thought it was at first, like liver sick. Like, I have been laid up. Thankfully, I gave up drinking about 2 months ago. And so as a result, it didn't impact me that way. And I'm going to make a full recovery, which is great. But that's why I've been completely absent for the last about a week and a half, is that there's just been nothing left for me to give. So this week, we're going to start out with the interview of Cricket, also known as Corey Tapp. He is a great guy. I thoroughly enjoyed speaking to him. And he also probably has one of the highest onboarding fees that I've ever listened to, which was pretty interesting to hear. I think it took me about $5,000 to $10,000 to get started, but he went well beyond me. Anyways, I hope that y'all enjoy this, and fear not, I will be back up to 100% in no time, and I'll talk to you later. Bye. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Michael Rollins Show. Because as I've said, we don't have a better name for it. And today it is the Michael Rollins and Cricket FPV show. And I introduce to you Cricket FPV, aka Corey Tapp.
What's up, fellas? How are you, Michael?
I'm doing well, buddy. How are you doing today?
Can't complain.
Very good. So Corey has graciously agreed to come on to the show to answer all of the really hard and awful questions that I'm going to ask him. And so the first question that we always start out with is, what's your origin story, man? How did you get into FPV? Where did it all start?
That's an easy question for me. So my buddy came over. He had been flying. He flies like fixed wings and planes and all that. He's like, "Oh man, I got this drone. I got to show you." So he comes to my house and he just starts flipping around my house, like going crazy. And I'm like, "Oh, I'm going to get one of those." But I was like a week away from going to Colorado with the family. So I'm like, as soon as I get back, I'm going to call you and I'm going to get everything. So I call him up when I get back. He comes back around the house. He does the exact same thing again. I'm like, okay. I go online and me and my other buddy just ordered like everything. I mean, I got screamed at so much for that one. I just thought it all, like everything.
Did you not clear it with the boss beforehand?
I don't know. Well, she didn't know how in depth it was going to be. You know, it was like, babe, I'm going to buy a drone. Yeah, okay, all right, go ahead, buy a drone. It wasn't like I'm going to buy a drone. I'm going to buy a charger. I'm going to buy batteries, and then I'm going to run this thing into a tree about 1 million times, so I have to buy. And I was like one of the guys that like wanted to keep up with like the latest and the greatest. Like if something new came out, I wanted that. I wanted to try that. I had to have that. So I dumped a lot of money.
I know the feeling. If you had to put a price tag on what your first year, well, how long ago was that? First off,
about 2 years ago. I'm coming up on 2 years now.
Okay.
I think IO would be 2 years. IO pretty much.
Okay. So if you had to put a price tag on the first year, what do you think it would be? Just ballpark.
15.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, dude, I thought mine was bad.
Well, and that's adding like, you know, trips, like going places, you know what I mean? Like that's added like everything total, like in the whole bunch, you know, not just, oh, this was just for parts or what have you, you know, just the whole experience. I mean, everybody knows you got to go buy yourself some poles. You got to buy yourself a rope. You need a chair. You know what I mean? It's like FPV is one of those things where there's so many other things that comes along with it. It's not just, I'm just going to buy a drone and I'm going to go fly it.
It's a little bit like camping.
Right, exactly. You need all the tools for the trade.
Yes.
So that's my story for that.
That's awesome, dude. So you haven't even been, man, that makes me angry. Like you haven't even been flying 2 years and you're getting the smoothness and the footage that you're getting. So did you have a pre-release of the Hero 7 with the Hyper Smooth before, like 2 years ago? Is that how you get all that smooth footage?
I wish I did. Honestly, man, it was just from watching like a lot of everybody fly. Like I just did a lot of watching, and I flew constantly. Like I mean, constantly, night, day, every day. There wasn't a day that I didn't go out and fly. You know, and shortly into me flying, we found the Bando here in Baltimore, and it was like, oh, this is what they've been flying. This is where, and like we went straight there. So it wasn't like I started in like the open field. The place that I have in like my last videos in the park, that's where I learned to fly. Trees everywhere. That's where I learned how to fly. You know, I saw everybody else on YouTube doing it. I'm like, I want to fly there, you know. And then I guess that's what made me progress as fast as I have.
So that, you know, that's an interesting perspective on it, because I know for me, like my first quad was, so I started flying in 2016, actually right as Rotor Riot was coming out. So from my look at it, it just seemed like Rotor Riot had always been there. I didn't know it was a brand new show. And I was flying this little 4-inch Nito, they called it the Sexy Little Beast. And these guys were like, hey, you know, our recommended build is an X-Racer F303 and these I got them right over here, to these 2800 kV motors.
Ooh,
and I did not have any freaking clue what I was flying. I mean, my first few videos, like I remember I got so excited when I finished my first build, and it was dark outside, and I thought, well, you know, maybe what I'll do is I'll just stay under the street light, right? So I'm like, I'll just stay under the street light. So keep in mind, I've never flown FPV before, and I set that thing on the ground and I put these awful box goggles on, which I didn't have any. I didn't have glue. I didn't have duct tape, so I just wrapped pantyhose around them.
Oh man, don't tell me people this story.
Oh, dude, it's actually I posted it on Facebook today because I was just like, this is, you got to remember, you got to stay humble, you got to remember where you came from, right? And I sat down and I there was no arming. It was like, you know, arm it with the sticks, and then throttle and push forward, you know. And next thing I know, man, that thing just screams off into the distance.
Gone.
And all I see is blackness in my goggles, and I'm like, oh my god, what's happening? And I just kill it, and I hunted around for 15 minutes trying to find it, and finally found it. Keep in mind, it was a little wet too. So, dude, it was awful. And then like the very next day, I flew it right into a tree, and then, I mean, it's just so many terrible, awful things.
That made me want to quit, like, in the beginning. Like, that was, like, the hard, like, go out, you charge all your batteries up, you're ready to go out with everybody, and you go out, and you break your only quad. Yeah. And then you're just like, bam, I got 10 extra charged batteries and a broken quad, and I have to wait a week to get an ESC. You know what I mean? Like, those were, like, the trials and the tribulations of, and put it like this, Amazon was my best friend.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how I know how much the total is. I can just look at my Amazon.
Yep. Dude, I did Amazon, eBay, and then like I think I was ordering from some Chinese company. I mean, I had no freaking clue what I was doing. It just completely and totally, I didn't know what I was doing. It was great. So we got a dog. What's your dog's name?
Douglas.
Douglas. All right. Is that what kind of just caught a glimpse? Boxer or
Pitbull?
Pitbull? Very cool. Show us Douglas. Hi, Douglas. Hey, buddy. He's pretty.
That's why when Doug's over here, and I'm like, Doug, he's like, are you talking to me or the dog? It's like a kid, dude. It's like a kid. Like if he's outside and he won't come, I'm like, Douglas, get over here. And people are looking at me like, who is he talking to? Like a dog named Douglas? Who has a dog named Douglas? Me.
Right. That's awesome. So, Let me ask you a question, right? So, like, get ready for this interview. I obviously went to your YouTube channel, and I just, like, I don't know why I hadn't spent more time watching your videos before this. Like, I knew, like, I had seen some of the stuff you had done in various Facebook groups, but, like, I started watching your stuff, and man, I'll be honest with you, like, I don't watch a lot of flight videos. There's not a lot that I see that, like, inspires me or gets me excited again. But I was watching some of your flight videos, and, like, I got that feeling again where it was like, man, I wanna go fly, like, right now.
That's
right?
that's what makes me, like, that's what, like, I appreciate that, man. Like, that's what makes me want to fly harder, is that I can inspire other people to want to go out and fly more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because that's all it is. It's not like I'm at an unobtainable level than anybody else. All it is this time. You know what I mean? Dedication. You know what I mean? Like, that's really, if you had time to fly every day,
Mm-hmm.
the sky's the limit of how good you could actually be. You know what I mean? It's all about, it clicks. Like, it'll click for you one day. Like, not just you, but anybody. It'll just click, and it'll be like, oh my God. Like, like, I could have just done this, and, like, it's weird, man. It's weird. I struggled for a long time flying and trying to get better and better and better, and it didn't. One day it just clicked, and it was like, okay, just look at, like,
I think there's a characteristic to your flying that, like, you look at guys like Steele, and there's flippy floppies, right? And he's, like, very precise in all of his movements, and, like, he just slings it around like 3 times and then flips and flops, and all of a sudden you're back on some line, and you're like, how the hell did we get here? Right? Like, that's Steele flying, right? And then there's Ladrib, there's Drew, where Drew's stuff is, like, just these sweeping, gentle arcs, and then, like, periodically he just throws some sick dive into something through some gap that's, like, this big, right? But one of the things I noticed immediately about your flying is you yaw probably the smoothest I think I've seen. Like, not only are, like, all of your stick movements are very controlled. There's no extra movement in, like, your lines at all, from what I can see. And I assume that there's probably footage where, the quad shakes just a little bit or whatnot. Like, you're probably picking out the good footage from all of the footage that you fly in a day.
I'll go back to that, but go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So, but the way you handle yaw maneuvers is it's something I don't think I've seen anybody else do, because it's like you don't even, like, a lot of guys, when they yaw, they bobble a little bit, and your yaw, it's just coming right around, and all of a sudden, boom, you're flying backwards. And then you yaw back out of it, and it's so smooth. I mean, how do you get the smoothness? Like, is it something you think about?
No, but I just don't flinch at anything.
Okay.
So, like, if you're flying and you see that branch is getting close, most people veer away from that branch or whatever. You know what I mean? And I guess it's like quad awareness, like knowing exactly where your quad is, how close you can get to something before you have to make an adjustment. And like I said, that's something that took me a while to get used to doing. But don't make any unnecessary stick movement. Don't make it. I just don't make a lot of corrections unless I have to. I'm not just saying I just run my quad in the trees or anything. Like, now, going back to, like, the Steele thing, like, Steele was super precise, like, hands down, probably one of the best pilots in the game. You know what I mean? But it's 2 different types of flying.
It is.
When you watch Steele and you're an actual pilot, you're like, holy shit. Like yes. That's what you're thinking. Like, damn, like he just, like, tore that place apart. You know what I mean? But as like a person from the outside looking in, you know what I mean? You're looking at, like, like you said, like, oh, wait, how did I get to this spot? You know what I mean? Yeah. So I guess the smoothness for me was just trying to make no stick movements unnecessarily.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't make any unnecessary stick movements, and don't flinch. Don't worry about crashing. Some of those things I do, dude, I'm like, oh, this might not work out well, but I'm 110% committed.
So that's what I was going to ask you is, like, at what point, like, are you just always committed, or are you? So because there was. So the one, and we're going to come back to this video, but the video that you did where all your buddies came down and hung out with you for your birthday, there was this one moment, I think you guys were flying at the school, and you came up over the walkway, you came underneath the walkway, and I think you came into it backwards, you yawed around, and it was just like tree. There was a tree right there, and I thought, oh man, this is it. This is like, that's the end of the video. Like, this is it. And like, next thing I know, like, somehow I don't know what kind of motors you were flying, but you full throttled over the tree, and I was just sitting there going, how the hell did he do that? So like, I mean, what do your rates look like? Do you fly low rates? Do you fly any kind of deadband, or what do you do?
It's all whatever the factory setting is in flight one. Whatever the factory, when I set up a quad, I don't even go into the page for that, or the rates or anything. So that stays the same on all my quads. So
you fly completely stock flight one.
Completely stock flight one.
I am switching everything to flight one tomorrow.
Dude, completely stock. Like, I've never, and that's another thing that when I got into it, tuning was like the thing.
Oh yeah.
Like, you couldn't fly smooth if you didn't have it tuned. I didn't want to dedicate that much time to tuning. So my thing was, I flew around all the oscillation and any problems that my quad had. I just flew around it. So over the time, I mean, I've stuck with flight one since day one. That's what I've always flown, and I don't change my setup very much at all. Like, I always fly. I have 4 quads. They're all the exact same. Different ESCs here and there, but other than that, like, it's always a stock flight one, and I don't change anything major unless there's like a big leap in technology or something like, like when turtle mode came out, or like that's when I changed firmwares. Like, I've been on the same firmware since. Right now I'm on the latest flight one. But before that, I didn't change firmwares for like, I don't know, 20 different changes in the firmware. I never changed.
If it's not broke.
You can't get used to it. So how can you get used to something if you are steadily changing it? Steel's so good because steel didn't change much.
Yeah.
It's the same setup. He knows that quad like the back of his hand. He knows exactly how much this is going to get, that's going to get. Once you find something that works, I tell my buddies they're building this frame and that frame and this frame and this frame. Dude, find a frame you like, you build 3 of them. The exact same, and you fly them. When I take one quad and I crash that and I put that down, the next quad I pick up is going to be the exact same setup. It should feel pretty much very close to what the other one did. You know? So I think that is like a major part that would people, and I mean, you have to find that, and that's where all that dollar figure comes in, because you spend, what you like now, am I right? But in the beginning,
I know you're a Rotor Riot sponsored pilot, but my favorite setup was actually that X-Racer F303. I ran it's actually right here. This is what's left of it at the moment. The Red Rotor, OSD, cause those old F3 boards. Yeah. The Red Rotor OSD. And then I would just kind of pick whatever ESCs were cheap at the time. Dude, my favorite motors to date have been the OG hype trains.
They were dude, I got a box of them over there.
But But one thing I'm really sensitive to is Last year I spent $300 on FPV.
What?
I spent $300 on FPV. Now keep in mind, I'm not going out and flying every day, right?
The whole year?
Through the whole year, I spent $300 on FPV. If you count one thing that I did with a tiny whoop, then it's a little bit more. But for my main 5-inch, I spent about $300 worth on parts and props. And I would fly the things that were durable. I would fly the things that were proven. Right, and I kept one quad. I had this quad, and then I had a similar build over there. That the only difference really between the two was that one had the old Mr. Steel motors, and the other one had the Hype Train motors. And I kept breaking my Hype Train motors because it was the original Bell design. V1. And so, yeah, the V1s. And so I actually just recently switched. So I've still got the same. I fly an MQC Fusion frame.
That was what I flew.
Oh, is it? Is that really what you fly?
No, I don't fly that now, but I did fly. I had 4 of those at one time.
Dude, those are like, I mean, they're
ever.
They're the best. I mean, they're the best. And I at one point, not last year, but the year before, had put together a 6-inch build with MB Primos, 2207, and so I went back and I was like, let me give those a try again, because I was like, I was looking at a situation where I had to replace all 4 motors. And so now I'm flying a higher KV on a different stator size. And it's definitely taking a lot to get used to. So.
Yeah, definitely the motor changes make a big difference. It's just that throttle response.
The throttle,
where that stops at. That's probably the main. Once you get your throttle control down, everything else is pretty much easy. Yeah. I know I can screaming from a dive. I know exactly how much I need to get me right off the ground and can stay with that continuous flight line.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I really love about the 2306 stator size is that they have all that extra torque in the low end. So you don't need as much throttle on the bottom when you're coming in low, and that's been probably the hardest thing to get used to on the 2207s. Is man, if it's a good week, I get out twice, and when I say I get out twice, like I get out for 5 or 6 packs at a time. So I'm not flying a huge amount, and then periodically, I've got two sons that fly, so we'll all go flying. But when they're flying, I'm actually spotting, right? Because that's that bill. Yeah, that's a situation that I don't want to. I don't want to have a problem there, but. So dude, totally. Like I talk to a lot when I talk to beginners, because I'm not the best pilot, but I'm okay. They'll ask me, what's the number one thing you'd recommend, and I'd say, don't change anything. Like, find what you like and don't change it. You can change it later if you want, but get used to what you want. So now I'm like, man, I really I like these 2207s. I like the high end, because I've had all of a sudden I have all this high end that I've never had before. I'm moving faster. And man, I really like that torque on the 2306s. Yeah. So
I agree with you 100% with that.
So there you have Corey. He is kind of amazing. If you haven't watched any of his videos, I highly recommend that you do. They're well worth watching. And we'll give you that nice, fun, I really like this. Now let's go fly. At any rate, I'm glad that you guys enjoyed this. There will be more. There will, of course, be 2 more. And I'll talk to you soon.